David here with Figboot on Pens, back again with another fountain pen review. Today I have for you a review of a pen from one of the more well-known and well-respected pen craftsmen, a gentleman by the name of Ryan Krusac. I have a number of his pens in my collection, which I have purchased, but I've only reviewed one of his pens to date. That was one of his very cool scrimshaw models, which I just really love. I felt it was time to review another one of his pens in my collection, which is made from some very unique wood. And that would be the Legend 16 model made from Ebony Heartwood Sapwood. What I'm going to do today is go over the parts and features of this interesting and unique pen, talk about what I care for and what I don't care for about it. I'll show some measurements, size comparisons, and provide a writing sample. As I mentioned, this was a pen which I had purchased myself a while back. It is part of my personal collection, and I'm looking forward to sharing it with you today. If you're not familiar with Ryan Krusac, he's based out of Ellijay, Georgia, which is about an hour north of Atlanta. If you'd care to learn all about Ryan and his work, how he got into pen making, and take a look at a number of his designs, I'd recommend checking out this interview I did with Ryan a few years back. In addition to making pens, Ryan is also a very talented artist. If you're ever at a show, I'd strongly recommend spending some time at Ryan's table. He's great to talk to, and you'll probably walk away with a very nice pen to add to your collection. Speaking of nice pens, let's take a look at one. And this is the Legend 16 Ebony Heartwood Sapwood. And as you can see, the distinguishing feature of this pen is the two different colors of the wood. You see, this isn't two different woods glued together. This is one solid piece of wood from a single tree. The ebony tree is very unique. This is a cross section. You can see that the middle portion of this tree, the heartwood, is black, while the outer portion, the sapwood, is more of a lighter brown. Now, there are several types of ebony wood, but certain species of ebony can be one of the most expensive woods on the planet. Depending on the size of the piece, the wood can be up to $23,000 per cubic meter. The reason ebony wood is so expensive is that it's a very rare tree. It grows in very few places and can take up to 70 to 200 years to mature. I love how this pen is pretty close to a 50-50 split between the colors. I also like how the brown portion of the wood has a lot of character with these smaller, darker veins. And while the darker side is very black, it has some subtle character and nuance as well. Now, this pen provides a bit of a cautionary tale in relation to pen shows. A couple of years back, I really don't recall which show it even was, but Jonathan Brooks shared with me a version of this pen he had purchased from Ryan at the show. His was a little different. The black and brown had a bit more of a wave to it. I went over to Ryan's table and he had one of these out on display. I thought about picking it up, but just decided against it right at that moment. About 5 minutes later, I came to my senses and returned to his table to purchase the pen, but in the 5 minutes I was away, it was sold. And that was the only one Ryan had in his inventory. That's a lesson when it comes to attending shows. If you see something that you like, especially if it's unique or one of a kind, then it's best to act on it if you like it rather than waiting, because if you even wait 5 minutes, it could be gone. So after my initial disappointment, I asked Ryan if he could make another. He didn't have any of this material left in his wood inventory, but would make one for me the next time he came across some of the wood. It took a few months, but he found some more ebony and then made this pen, which I gladly purchased. Okay, let's take a look at the top of the cap. It comes to a rounded point. Below the cap, it is engraved with Ryan Krusac's logo. I like the decision to engrave the brown side rather than the black side on this pen. I think it shows a little bit better. And I also appreciate how centered the logo is as well. It would have bugged me if it wasn't on the exact center of these sides. The cap angles up over the first inch or so and then straightens out. There is a medium-sized step down to the barrel, which is straight until about the last inch or so, where it tapers down slightly, and like the top of the cap, it comes to a rounded point. The name Legend 16 refers to the diameter of the barrel, which is approximately 16 millimeters. Ryan also has a Legend 15 and 14 models. The cap twists off in 2.5 rotations, and underneath there is a number 6 JoWo stainless steel nib engraved with the Ryan Krusac logo. Since these pens are custom made, I believe you can get just about any size Yovo nib you would like on here. And here's a look at the plastic feed. The section of this pen is ebonite. It begins with a very slight flare. It angles up until it reaches the very short threads and a step up to the remainder of the barrel. I do like how short the threads are on this pen. They almost hide in the transition from the section to the barrel. The ebonite feed has a matte finish to it, so it really presents a great surface for maintaining your grip. I do like on this specific pen how if you are right-handed, when I grip the pen, the transition between the colors is facing me. Now on this specific pen, if you are left-handed, then all you see is black. Now that might not be the same for every pen made from this material. The cap really isn't designed to post, which is fine by me. The pen is plenty long enough to use unposted, and I typically don't like to post pens made from wood because over time there's a potential for damaging the wood or making a little mark where the posting contact is made. This is a cartridge converter pen. It accepts standard international cartridges and a converter is provided. Even though this barrel is one solid piece and there's no metal in the section, I would not recommend eyedropping a pen made from wood. That would completely stain the inside of the barrel, and over time, the moisture absorbed into the wood would most likely ruin the pen, which would be a bad thing. I also like that this pen has a single entry thread so that the material on the cap will always line up with that on the barrel. That would have really annoyed me if it had a triple entry thread and 2 of the 3 would result in the cap being out of alignment, so I appreciate that attention to detail. While Ryan does have a few pens in his inventory which are ready to sell, the majority of the pens he sells are custom and made to order. I don't believe he has any of this particular model ready to sell, but I confirm that he does have ebony material in his inventory, so if you care for this pen, you can visit his site and begin the custom order process. I'll put a link to his site in the notes below. I'll also put a link to the interview that I did with him a while back. The price for the Legend 16 Ebony Heartwood Sapwood is $345. While it's been a few years since I purchased this pen, I can't recall the exact price I paid, but that sounds about right. This is not an inexpensive pen, but what you receive is a high-quality writing instrument from an extremely artistically talented pen craftsman. I've purchased a number of Ryan's pens, and this is one of my favorites. I love the unique wood. And, it was something that I had never even heard of before. I didn't know that one tree could have 2 drastically different colors like this. And Ryan is a craftsman who is very easy to work with and stands behind every pen he sells. If you're not familiar with his work, I'd strongly recommend checking out his site to see all of his unique offerings. Okay, now it is time for some measurements, size comparisons, and a writing sample. Here we go with some size comparisons for the Ryan Krusac Ebony Heartwood Sapwood. I just think that transition on this pen is just so cool. So, in regard to some other Krusac pens, this is the Scrimshaw model that I mentioned previously. The Scrimshaw work on this is just amazing. And this is moose antler. And then I had mentioned some other sizes. This is a Legend 16, and this is in the Cocobolo wood. And then this is a Legend 15, and this is in Honduras rosewood. And then this is a Legend 14, and this is in ebony. And then it has, I can't remember exactly what that is in the end, but it has something in the finial there. And that's what it looks like in comparison. Oh, I have one more Krusac pen as well. This one is the Oracle, which is a bit of a different design. It actually has a clip on it, and that's what it looks like. And then in regard to some non-Krusac pens, this is what it looks like with an Omos Mylord, and then a Sailor King of Pen Pro Gear, and that is the Sky version, and then finally a Lamy Safari. In regard to some uncapped comparisons, this is what it looks like with the 14. So this is the 16 and this is the 14. And then here it is with the Lamy Safari. And then here it is with the Sailor King of Pen Pro Gear. Here we go with the writing sample for the Ryan Krusac. And we will just call this the Ebony. And that is we'll just say the Heartwood Sapwood. And this is a stainless steel medium nib. And the ink that I'm using today is one of my favorite inks, which is Diamine Communication Breakdown. This is what the ink looks like. It's a nice kind of darker red with a green sheen to it. Kind of looks somewhat similar to Venta Sandugo. And then this is what it looks like with Sailor Gentle Grenade, which is a little bit of a redder red, but has that same kind of sheen to it. This is what the bottle looks like. This was originally only available in the German market. I'm not quite sure if it's available everywhere, but it's a cool ink. And then, you know, an ink named after Led Zeppelin song has to be pretty cool as well. Okay, here we go with the rest of the writing sample. This medium Jowo nib is very nice. Ryan does a good job of tuning his nibs. You're not going to get a lot of line variation out of this nib. But I do find for a medium nib that the ink flow is decent on here. In regard to reverse writing, it is a little bit sharp, but it gets the job done with an extra fine line. And then in regard to some fast writing, the feed keeps up just fine. So there we have the Ryan Krusac Ebony Heartwood Sapwood. If you don't already have a Krusac pen in your collection, I'd strongly recommend checking out his site. He does some fantastic work and makes some very unique pens. Okay, until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later. Now, this pen provides a bit of a cautionary tale. Now, this pen provides a bit of a cautionary tale in relation to pen show. Now, this pen provides a bit of a cautionary tale in table. Why do I say table? Now, this pen provides a bit of a cautionary tale. Now, this pen provides a cautionary tale